Okay, so this is part 5 of the review for the molecules to atoms unit 1 test, and we're going to talk about reading the periodic table. There was some specific information that you needed to remember about looking at the periodic table and what it told you. So some things to highlight in this section are that the horizontal rows are called periods. Again, horizontal, think the horizon, the ones that go like this, like we're writing across the line. The vertical columns, that would be vertical up and down, are called groups or families. Elements within these groups have similar properties. Most of the elements on the periodic table are metals. Only 92 of the elements are naturally occurring. And the periodic table is a list of all our known and predicted elements, and it's arranged by atomic number or number of protons. Okay, so again, these vertical columns as we go up and down, these are called groups, and this is an example of one group as we're going up and down here. Horizontal rows are going across like this, and these are called periods. This is an example of one period on the periodic table. Think horizon. For this, you look out at the horizon, you look out at horizontal, vertical columns. Think of the columns that support a building. If you're having trouble, remember those. But slow down with this. Students sometimes get them backwards, so please be careful. All right, so when we did Bohr models, one of the things that you would have noticed is we looked down that first column or group, remember, is what we call it. And we did our Bohr models, we noticed that in our outermost energy level there was 1 electron. And when we did some of the Bohr models in the other group A, it's important that this is the group A, not the group B elements, and I'll talk about that in a second. That every group in the A's, the group number indicates the number of electrons in that valence shell. So here's carbon in group 4, it has 4. Here's silicon in group 4, and it has 4 valence electrons. Remember, the valence electrons are the ones in the outermost energy levels. We don't care about these ones underneath. It's the ones on the outside. We're going to talk about bonding later, and again, it's those electrons that are responsible for how they interact with other things. Group 7, we have 7 valence electrons, all the way down the group, vertical column group. Group 8, we have 8 electrons in almost everything. Helium is the odd guy, but remember, helium only has 1 energy level, and that first energy level is filled when it has 2 electrons. So helium has all of the electrons that it can handle in that energy level that it has, so it only wants 2, it only has 2, and that's good. But everything else has 8, and we've talked about the fact that 8 is great. 8 is the stable electron configuration where it's not going to want to react with anything else. We call these stable or unreactive. Okay, so the group number here for the group A elements would tell us the number of valence electrons. So group 5A has 5 valence electrons, group 6A has 6 valence electrons, 2 has 2 valence electrons, and so on. All right, as we go across the horizontal, we look at the periods. The periods tell us the number of energy levels. So if you look here in my first period, I have 1 energy level. When we go to lithium, we go to that second energy level. Well, that's in period 2. That's the second horizontal row, and as you look all the way across, it has 2 energy levels. 3 energy levels for the third period, 4 for the fourth period, 5 for the fifth period, and so on. So horizontal tells us the period, horizontal periods tell us the number of energy levels. Vertical columns tell us the number of valence electrons. Very important to remember. Great information as we're going through, and it helps you with the Bohr models too, and valence electrons. Quick and easy, don't have to draw a lot of stuff, just look at the periodic table. Again, horizontal, 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 horizontal. Okay? All right. Most of the periodic table is are made up of metals. You can take a look here and see these metals, all of the sort of blue. These kind of gold-looking things are non-metals. Please do not get confused by the extra elements here. This is just a newer periodic table. And then these green are the metalloids. And you had a line on your other periodic table that went from boron between silicon and germanium, arsenic, and I can't remember if that's arsenic or acetine. But between the AS and the SB and tellurium and polonium, I think that is. So you had a line that went like, whoopsie, a line that went sort of in the center of yours, and we said anything that touched that zigzag line was a metalloid. It shared metal and non-metal properties, okay? So as I go from left to right on the periodic table, things become less metallic. These are non-metals, and these are gases over here, so clearly not metals. Don't forget about hydrogen over here. Hydrogen is a non-metal. It's in this first, on the left-hand side because it has one valence electron, but it is a non-metal. And remember that things that are in the same group share the same types of properties because they have the same number of valence electrons, and that affects the bonding. All right, you need to know two names of, two group names are the we're going to focus on. Group 8A, this very last column, are called the noble gases, and the column right next to it, group 7A are called the halogens. The noble gases do not react with anything. They don't want to bond with anything. We're not going to ever find them together in a chemical formula for anything we work with because they're happy. They've got a full valence shell. They don't want to give anything up. They don't want to get anything. They're good. The halogens have some special properties we'll come to later, but these are two very important groups that you actually know the names of. The rest of them we aren't going to really work with, but we did talk about when you were doing the coloring the periodic table, this first column are the alkali metals, second column is the alkaline earth metals, and then these are named after, these columns right here are named after the first element in the group. I'm going to go back to this one more time because this gives you the zigzag light thing that we said. Anything touching that zigzag line was a metalloid. Okay, so quick thing for your periodic tables, we don't write on your periodic tables for you the groups. And so one of the things you want to do is notice that these raised columns, these raised groups, that's the group A. The lowered ones are called transition metals. These are group Bs. We aren't ready to deal with them yet. But one of the things you might want to do when you first get your periodic table is just write 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, 7A, 8A. Label these top ones. That helps you remember the valence electrons. 1 valence electron, everything there. 2 valence electrons, everything there. 3 valence electrons, 4 valence electrons, 5, 6, 7, 8. Except for helium. Helium has 2 valence electrons. Only 1 energy level. That is a quick tip. I'd get in that habit right now. Every time you get a periodic table, label those group A's so you don't forget. Okay, that's it for this section.